Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so this is the second part to the Sine Laws booklet, this booklet right here. And this is going to talk about the second of the two laws. We already discussed the sine law and solving for missing side and missing angle. So now let's talk about the cosine law and solving for missing side and stuff like that, missing angles. So if I look at this situation, okay, it's not a 90-degree triangle. So if I think about my sine law, right, where's my other pens here? So I'll call this C, A, and B. So this is little c, little a, and little b, like that. And if I think about what I have in my sine law, well, I have angle C, but I don't know little c. I don't know angle B, but I know little b. And I don't know angle A, but I know little a, right? And I have one of each of these parts. I don't have a full set. And in order for me to use the sine law, I need to have a full set. Like, oh, I just, minus 180 and I still need another angle. So I'm an angle short. And the sine law won't work. Typically it's when you have an angle between two sides. But if you have an angle between two sides, you're missing the opposite side to that angle. And that's what we have here. So we're stuck having to use another method, which happens to be called the cosine law. So let me set that up for you. Okay, so it's kind of rather long-winded, right? It's c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared, which by itself is Pythagoras' theorem, this part here. Right? A squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. But because it's, Pythagoras only works with 90-degree triangles, because this is not a 90-degree triangle, we have to add this extra little part, which is 2bc, sorry, that's 2ba, sorry, 2ba, times the cosine of big C. So 2 times little b times little a times the cosine of big C. So 2 times little b times little a. So let's plug this in and see what we get when we sort this out. Okay, so that's what it looks like with everything filled in all proper like. And now it's our job to calculate this. So, I got 12 squared, that's 144, and 10 squared is 100. But then this whole piece here, right, this whole piece has to be calculated out separately. Start off with cos 80 times by 12 times by 10 and then times by negative 2, or 2 with the negative there. So be careful in this last part. This is where people wind up making their mistakes. And then also don't forget this is c squared over here, right? So at the end I'm going to have to take the square root in order to cancel that squared value. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, so those are my numbers. 144 plus 100, that's easy enough. And then 2 times 10 times 12 times the cosine of 80. If you do it properly, it should be like 41.7 or something. So now it's not too hard. I just gather all of those things up and square root at the end. Okay, so I gather all those things up, and I got c squared is equal to 203. So I got to take the square root of both sides. So c, right when you take the square root, winds up getting you 14.2. So yeah, when your sine law doesn't work, you're kind of going deep into the toolbox and you're having to use this cosine law. Now the thing is, the letters can change. I could call these F, R, J, whatever letters I want. What's important to know is that the little c here and the big C there, whatever letter you have here is going to be so that's the lowercase, will be the uppercase there. And then all the other letters you've got, if I have A and B, then these are A and B's as well. But if I change things around and use different letters, then, as long as these, the lowercase and the uppercase are there, and the other two letters are in those spots, so I could use any kind of letters I like. So this is just the general version of the cosine law. You can change it for all the different letters you like, or you can even rearrange the letters A, B, and C in the original triangle in order to match your formula that you need. So that's not too bad. It's just plugging it in and chugging it out. You don't even have to do inverse cosine or anything like that. But if I want to solve for a missing angle, then I need some extra trickery. And that's our last example before I sign off on this lesson. So let's have a look at solving for a missing angle. Okay, so here's an example where the sine law doesn't work because I don't have an angle. I don't have any angles, right? So I don't have any of these top pieces. I have all the little a's. So there's little a, there's little b, and there's little c. But so I have all the bottom parts, but I don't own a complete set. You know, in Monopoly terms, I don't have a complete set that I can build houses on. So I can't use this formula because I have all the bottoms, but I don't have any of the tops, and so no set is there. So, okay, I gotta go to the cosine law next. Okay, so let's write that out and see what's going on. Alright, so there's the cosine law that I gave you just a couple moments ago, and I've got c squared. So c squared is this guy over here. That's c, that's b, and that's a. And I'm looking for angle b, right? That's where my x value is. But I don't have any angle b in this formula. So I've got to change things around. I've got to change out all my c values for all my b values, just so that I can create a situation where I have an angle b to work with. So let me just change those up. I'll do those changes in red so you can see. You can scroll back and forth if you need to. Alright, so I've just altered the letters in the formula so that I wind up having angle b to be able to solve, because that's what I'm asked to solve for. I'm asked to solve for angle b, so I better make sure my formula has an angle b in it, otherwise I'm not solving for anything that's important. So okay, so I just, where I saw a b, I changed it to a c, and wherever I saw a c, I just swapped them back and forth. You can go back and forth in the, slide your little slider thing and see, what's out there. So, okay, I've set it up so that I can now work with it. And now it's a matter of plugging in what I've got into the spaces that I've set up. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so I've just plugged in all the values for A, B, and C and all that. And you can see that here. And I've just taken those values from the triangle. And now my job is to solve for this B value. And it's a problem. This question is the hardest of all the questions to do with sines and cosine laws, because you have to wind up doing algebra to solve for angle B, and that's no joke, right? This is probably the hardest question in this whole booklet, is being able to do those solutions. And it's not because it's necessarily hard per se, but it's hard because people wind up forgetting a very important detail in the algebra that they do here. It's not entirely obvious just from looking at it. So let's go through the algebra and I'll show you where people wind up messing up, so you don't make the same mistake, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so here's what I've got when I've plugged in all my numbers and I've calculated things out. I got this is equal to that, and then 1 minus 192 times the cosine of b. And so if I'm starting to solve for b, I'm going to have to minus the 144 and minus the 64 to both sides. But a lot of people add the 192 as well, because they're like, oh yeah, it's opposite of negatives, it's plus, that's what I gotta do. And the answer is no, you don't add 192. And the reason why is it's not a like term. It's attached by this multiplication symbol to cosine. So it's like a coefficient. It's like saying 2x or something like that. So we don't include this in the minusing of these other two numbers. So let's just quickly have a look at what that looks like, and we'll go from there. Okay, so just so that you know that I got, negative 108 is equal to negative 192 times the cosine of b, and then you divide off the negative 192 to both sides. That's how you get it, like getting rid of a coefficient. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so that winds up being 0.563 positive because the negatives cancel out. A lot of people make that mistake. They forget to sort out the negatives. And so now it's easy peasy. I just do inverse cosine both sides. Bada bing, bada boom. And there you be, folks. 55.8 degrees. So that's this guy right there. And now you can use the sine law if you like to find any other points, because you've just calculated that. You have these two, and you have all these other values now because you just calculated big B, so you can solve for big A or big C by going to the sine law and finishing off all the angles in the triangle. And I think I might get you to do that once or twice in the booklet, just to go through all the angles and sides. So there we are, guys. That's the end of the lesson for the booklet, the Sine Laws. Okay, this is part 2. Part 1 was solving for sine using the sine law, and part 2 is using the cosine law. And of course the cosine law is last resort. Sometimes it's the only resort you got. Alright, so take care. Talk to you later.